go ahead and call the meeting to order for Public Works, May 28th, 5 o'clock meeting to order. If there's no objection, we'll just accept the agenda unless someone wants to remove or add something. Hearing none, we'll go ahead. We won't have to vote on it if there's no objection. Minutes need approval.
Motion.
Second.
There's been a proper motion, proper second. Any further discussion on the issue? Hearing none, is everyone ready to vote? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, passes unanimously. Now on to citizens' comments. Does anybody want to say anything about? There's no one here this evening. They're probably recuperating from a wonderful, crazy Memorial Day
Concert.
rainy Memorial Day weekend, except for Saturday.
Right.
That was
Beautiful.
the Lord works in mysterious ways.
Beautiful.
All right. No citizens' comments from anyone. We'll go ahead then and go with the first reading of Resolution 2024-21. Resolution accepting the dedication of the completed streets in Durham Farms Phase 3, Section 28B.
So moved.
Second.
Proper motion, proper second. Any discussion? Everybody been out there to look at them and from Public Works? Okay. Any further discussion on it? Okay, is everybody ready to vote? All in favor of Resolution 2024-21, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, passes unanimously. All right, got that one out of the way. Let's see. Number 2 is a resolution 2024-22 is a resolution accepting the dedication of the streets of North Parish Place right-of-way dedication. Need a motion.
Motion.
Second.
All right, there's been a proper motion, proper second. Any discussion on that resolution? Everything good?
Looks good.
Okay, all right. All in favor of Resolution 2024-22 signify by saying the resolution accepting the dedication of the completed streets on Parish Place right away. All in favor of those say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, it passes unanimously. And then we have another here is a reading of Resolution 2024-23, a resolution authorizing the city's Parks and Rec to apply for the Blue Cross Blue Shield Healthy Place grant. I need a motion.
Motion.
Second.
There's been a proper motion and second. Discussion.
Let me tell about it.
Yeah.
This is kind of a rinse and repeat. 5th year we've applied for this grant. So hopefully we maybe get it. I think at this point we're the longest running city to apply to not get it. It's the same application we've done for this will be the 3rd year to convert the playground at Volunteer Park to an inclusive playground and at a turf field where in front of the hockey rinks there.
All right.
It doesn't include the development of any of the other land.
No, sir.
Just those two.
Just those two.
Oh, well, are they pretty quick to respond to the applications?
They've been telling us no every January. So I don't know when they tell the yes person.
So
it's due in August, due the end of August. That's when the applications are due. So I'm bringing this kind of early actually, but I didn't want to get hung up in canceled meetings or anything like that in July.
Okay, well, that's good.
You have a question?
Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, is it a particular ask that you think Blue Cross and Blue Shield doesn't like as a reason we've been rejected? Like the turf?
They have.
Would they be more in favor of adding new fields than a turf field?
They would be more in favor if our economic demographics were not what they were. They've done these in pretty focused lower income areas. They've some years given out 7 or 8 of these at $1 million or $2 million a piece, and then there's been a couple of years where they have done one massive project for 8 or 10 million. So we're hoping kind of that they'll go back to pick some cities and get us all on the map. Middle Tennessee's been very sparse in getting these.
Any further discussion on this? Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed this time. Maybe
1 year, man, 1
Yeah,
year.
just all we need, just that one.
Just one
that
time.
one. That's
Fifth
right.
time's a charm.
Like the Dodgers in the 70s.
One time. Need one time.
Okay, all in favor of reading resolution 2024-23 resolution for Parks and Rec to apply for the Blue Cross Blue Shield Healthy Place Grant, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, it passes unanimously. And our last resolution this evening is 2024-24 resolution to adopt an operating policies by the Public Works Department for routine stormwater system maintenance.
Motion.
Motion, second, and a proper second. Discussion for this.
Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, Jamie.
Sure, yeah,
Okay.
so, this is, part of the update that we're doing to, the new, MS4 permit through TDEC for our city, which is municipal separate storm sewer system. So
Right.
basically it gives us the authority to discharge into lakes and streams, waters of the state. So, in doing so, they want a lot of operating policies. So this is really just documenting the maintenance policies
Right.
for private property versus public maintenance responsibilities, materials that are acceptable within the city, things like that.
All righty.
It's been long needed, and I appreciate Sarah and her staff putting this together.
Sounds great.
All right. Any discussion on it?
Just maybe an unrelated item. Has the Stormwater Review Board ever met?
The appeals board for
Appeals
training,
board. They're still training after 2 years?
they receive annual training,
Okay.
yes.
So, but have they met?
They have not. We
They
haven't had
Had any
an appeal.
complaints? Okay.
We used to have complaints, and then we put together the appeals board.
Yeah. Well, and this deals with stormwater, I guess. Are we issuing fines for violations? I know we were told
Mhm.
the reason we need the board is because you can't do fines if you don't have a process of due process.
Correct.
And so that's why we created the board. So are we fining companies for repeat violations?
We have used fines to get things corrected, if you will, but they have not gone through the formal process of being assessed, which is it kind of goes into a little bit of a legal process. So it's kind of stopped there because it's been enough to resolve issues.
Okay.
So it just hasn't progressed to that point yet.
Okay.
Are the fines $50?
They range from $50 to, I think it could be up to 5,000 a day. It just depends on the severity and repetitive nature of the issue, things like that. So
So it's not a penalty.
they're civil fines.
Civil.
Mhm. Yeah. But as part of this, something that this process of coming into compliance with the new MS4 permit, there are a lot of requirements. And as part of that, we are developing a civil penalty matrix, which will more clearly define the penalty structure, which will also help in the event that they are assessed. It will help the appeals board to follow that due process, if you will.
Notice requirement. We don't have any combined sanitary storm, do we?
No, I don't believe we do now.
Okay.
Yeah, Nashville, I think, does.
So do we get any complaints about the stormwater amount, the fee? And is this board responsible to hear those as well?
So they're not necessarily responsible to hear those because there really isn't a waiver from paying because it's a utility. So there's not really an appeal process for paying that fee. In the last 3 years, I've maybe heard complaints from 2 people. Now I know prior to that, closer to when it was initiated, there were a lot.
Okay.
There hasn't been recently.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you for putting it together.
Any further discussion on that? All right, hearing none. All in favor of the resolution 2024, a resolution to adopt policy for Public Works Department for stormwater system maintenance, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, it passes unanimously. So those will all be referred to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Other agenda items is our world famous trash collection update. So let's hear it.
Well, we saw a pretty significant spike for about a week through this period. So, in following up on what those reasons were, and I had been involved through that week, there were some equipment issues, but also there were new staff that they were training, and there were a lot of backdoor misses specifically that week because they weren't familiar with who did backdoor versus curbside, which is one issue that we should see dramatically improved under our new contract. But it's my understanding that's been resolved for the most part, and they did go back and collect those pretty quickly. It didn't linger in the system, but the reported misses were very high for a week.
Yeah, I had one person that called me, my neighbor, my next door neighbor, who they're like the Adams. It's funny now, don't love the Adams family. They've been like family to us for years, and I think Joe is like in his 90s, and Mrs. Adams, and she's in a wheelchair, and she's in her 80s, and they missed him for 3 weeks, and then he finally called me, and so I called Public Works, and they said that what's his name? I can't remember. Melvin? Is it Melvin?
He's a route supervisor.
Yeah, he was going to go by and talk to him, but I don't know. I have not called him but I did see they had people over for the holidays that not Saturday, Friday, I think it was. But anyway, or no, yeah, I think it was because I was gone. But anyway, I have not called him to see whether he came by and picked it up. But they'd missed him for like 3 weeks, and it's going to be hard for him. But he said that he's going to try to take his stuff up to the curb. I mean, he's just a good guy. He really is in our community. And I said, no, if you just get do the route what we mailed out, and he was very familiar with that.
Yeah.
And but he's going to try it. I'm going to be watching him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if he can't, maybe he can get Morticia to walk.
Yeah. Or what's that guy's
Isn't it?
what's the Lurch? Yeah, the guy's big guy. Lurch come out. That's funny. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't get
I
it.
hope he's not watching this, but he may be. If he is, he's laughing. I'm
Hey,
sure.
Lurch.
Okay, so any other on trash collection update or anything? Well, that's good. I felt something was wrong, or not right, and when I spoke to Public Works back to Sirius that they've had some leaving, people leaving, and that's normal.
Yeah.
For this time of year.
So I've got a couple questions.
Yes.
On the new trash service,
Yes, sir.
how many medical exceptions have we received to date?
Roughly 500.
500, and that
That's
percentage, that's way under the 5%.
Yes, it's about
Way
half.
under. Half,
Mhm.
okay. And when the new contract starts, people can put yard trash in the garbage can, correct?
Yeah, it just has to fall within the limits, so 2 cans and 2 bags. But if it falls in that and it's in a plastic bag, they'll take it.
Or just loose in the garbage can?
I suppose, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's in a can.
Curbside, backdoor, everything has to be bagged.
Oh, I'm talking about curbside.
Right, yeah.
Okay. So can we take advantage of that new policy to try to limit the staff picking up grass clippings? We have a truck every Monday or Tuesday that goes around all the neighborhoods. Or do we want to do that? Or can we do it? Or should we do it?
I mean, we can. If it fits within their volume threshold, then people maximizing that. I mean, that is a benefit to the leaf bag route.
So, do we still have another communication or have they all gone?
So we've had 2 mailed communications from the city, and then Waste Pro sent one, the postcard with the reminders about the add-ons, and they are planning to send one that first week of June once they have the reroutes done. So I think they were waiting until all of potentially the majority of the add-on services were completed with the deadline of May 31st, to then look at where they're going to do their route changes. And then their final communication will be another one about what holidays are going to be acknowledged during the contract, the route changes, and just reminders about guidelines.
So if there's 2 garbage cans and 2 paper bags of yard waste, will they pick them up?
They're supposed to be plastic.
Plastic,
Mhm.
so not paper bags.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the paper bags fall under our normal limb and leaf bag collection.
Yeah, I'm just trying to somehow be a little more efficient. And since they'll pick them up, if we could save staff time, if it could cut down their picking up in half would help, that they could do other things. Would it be possible that to get Jesse, to get Waste Pro in their last piece that goes out to remind that you can put grass clippings in the bags?
Yeah, we can mention it. I mean, and we can do it in our other communications, and obviously we can put it on the website when that stuff goes live. July 1, we'll have all the new guidelines out there. And we did mention it in the mailer that we sent out. But they can certainly remind, again, as a part of the regulations, that they'll pick up leaf clippings in small yard in a plastic bag within the volume. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think people are excited about that. We've heard some comments online when they heard that they can keep it in plastic bags. They're thrilled. I think the other side are going to be the complaint that we keep getting is volume. People are worried about the volume limits. And so I think if they tried to do their leaf clippings in that, in addition to their trash volume, for some people, they would have too much volume weekly.
Thank you.
All right. All right, any further discussion on the trash collection update? Hearing none, we'll move on to a light synchronization update on that verbal update.
So for the project, we have resubmitted to PDOT just this last week after second round of comments. If we receive additional comments after this review, we'll be requesting a meeting to discuss, but I think they've been addressed at this point. So that's good news. And then we did also implement new timings throughout the 3 major corridors.
I can tell.
And we've heard a lot of positive feedback.
I can tell.
Yeah.
So it's been great. Actually, Trace left the shop and he says, "Gosh, I think there's less traffic out there. I got here so fast." I'm like, it might be the new timing.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
yeah, it's
I've
good.
noticed it. I hadn't had any calls on it, but
Mhm.
I've noticed it, so I know that if we notice it, you can be sure the other people have.
yeah.
So
I will note with that we have the complaints that we've received are from side streets because the main 3 corridor streets are prioritized.
right.
So some of the side streets are waiting a little bit longer, which does cause some frustration, but the progression through those main streets it's much improved.
So we submitted for a bid, right? Or no,
For
design.
Yeah.
And they sent comments back the first time. We addressed those comments and they have now sent us back the second time, more comments.
They did.
Were the comments in the second set duplicates of the first, that they weren't satisfied with our response in the first go around?
No, they were
Were they new?
They were different. Mhm.
They were new.
Yeah, they were different. And it's tough because they go through, I think, I want to say 6 different divisions review it, which is why they give them so much time, part of the reason. But then you get different reviewers with different interpretations and opinions, some of it. And that's why if we receive comments again, we'll request the meeting and try and address them on the call and just get it done.
So how many comments did they file with us on the second batch?
There weren't many.
Less than 6?
Probably around 6, yeah.
around 6.
It wasn't very many, but
And we have responded,
we did.
and you said next we're gonna request a meeting if they throw out more objections.
Yes, yeah.
So did our lobbyist help us on the light synchronization, Mayor?
He has. He helped us get to this point, working back in January and February. We probably be, I'd say, a month behind if he hadn't stepped in a little bit. And he's very happy to help us. So if it comes down to a meeting, I think he's very happy to step in again.
It's like Chinese water torture. Every time they file more comments, we gotta refile.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, that's another 4 to 6 weeks review period for them. So, yeah.
Meanwhile, it just keeps on going.
Yep.
So, all right, any other discussion on the synchronization? Well, we've come a long way with it, I'll say that.
Definitely.
And if we're seeing some production with the lights the way they are now, it's been worth it to me, to keep on and on and on until finally,
Yeah.
it'll get done. All right, so now the residential speed limits.
yeah, and I asked this to be put on
Yes.
the agenda, Mr.
Right.
Chairman, and you may remember this issue being beforehand, Ham Frost had a ordinance or resolution?
Ordinance.
Ordinance. And so the reason I brought this up is at maybe not the last meeting, but before, we had a citizen from Ward 6 come before us, Mr. Little, and he complained that the speed limit in Creekwood is 30 miles an hour and they have no sidewalks. And he alleged that newer subdivisions are all at 25 miles an hour and they have sidewalks. So he asked
I do remember this, actually.
for public safety purposes to reduce their speed limits to 25. So like they are. So I thought that the point was worth discussing, and I asked Sarah to look into it and to bring it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for putting it on the agenda. I just like to explore that topic because there does seem to me possibly an equity issue here. So, I want to understand where we are, how we got to where we are.
Sure. So, I think as a lot of people know, our current ordinance sets the default speed limit in the city, if you will, at 30 miles per hour. I remember I wasn't directly involved with the bringing of this ordinance or resolution. I believe it was intended to be an ordinance, but I do remember the discussions, and there are a lot of older subdivisions
Right.
that are at 30 and some of them 35 miles per hour, and that have requested a reduction of 25 miles per hour. But there are several factors. So design guidelines kind of tell you how to set speed limits basically. And so these new subdivisions are kind of designing a lot of these subdivisions to accommodate a lower speed limit, some of them, which could be accomplished through the pedestrian facilities. That's part of the criteria. It does cause people to exercise a little bit more care. And then also part of that would be like the roadway alignment, things like that. So when you have a subdivision or an area that was constructed without those things in mind, sometimes it impacts the speed limit. But I mean, I think that there's also justification, as you said, for residential areas having a lower speed limit and then making some changes to the roadway characteristic to accommodate a lower speed limit. For example, for Creekwood, one thing we had looked at before and recommended was putting down the lane line markings to tighten up the drivable width for traffic calming, which would also provide a shoulder for pedestrians to utilize in lieu of sidewalks.
So I'd like y'all to talk about it. What do y'all think about having a set? And I know we would have to define it because we wouldn't want cut through roads maybe to have it, but having a standard residential speed limit of 25 miles an hour instead of 30 or 35 miles an hour.
Is it tertiary,
I'm sorry.
tertiary streets?
This was defined as low volume. It's kind of how they defined it in the previous ordinance, which I think kind of makes sense. Because you have some residential streets that are major collectors, like all through Durham Farms would be an example of one, but I think they did sign that lower.
It's 25, all through Durham is
Yeah.
25.
And I think that was actually changed around the same time as they were looking at this legislation, I believe, through Durham.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember back the thought of that particular board of Mayor and Alderman. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that passed unanimously.
So I'm still waiting on the legislation from executive or city recorder. I have them both looking into that for me. My understanding was that it failed for the 25 miles per hour
I thought it
for the
passed.
residential, but
You
I could be wrong
What year
about
was
that.
it?
Yeah, but I don't remember how I voted.
2019, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember what the vote was, but as far as who voted what, but I didn't know that it failed. I thought it passed because there was, I remember, I don't know of any board of aldermen that doesn't have complaints about speeding in Hendersonville.
Yes.
What's
Honestly.
the number on it? What's the-
It doesn't have a number. It's
I know, what is it 2018?
it's got 2019 XX.
Yeah, that was just a copy I had saved in my personal record because
So you think it passed?
I thought it did, but
If it passed, then we're in violation of the ordinance.
Let me look right here.
I think the way that it was worded was that
Shared drive.
if it was signed
Oh, yeah.
a different
Yeah.
speed, like it didn't necessarily require the city to go in and change
2018.
every signed residential or low volume area, but like upon request, then we would have that as a guideline to evaluate changing out the signs. Was how it was originally.
I would be interested in seeing how that.
All the ordinances that are there.
how it went. Let's see what happened on that one. I really did because, it's, like I said earlier, we kind of brushed over it just about 30 seconds ago. I don't know of any board of aldermen since 1986 that has had more complaints about speeding in this town. I know there's one street that is a Harbor Drive is really bad about speeding, and I see it every day. When I pull out on that other side of Neptune Drive, that a lot of people don't use it because it's kind of a weird thing, but it's just a very small street that connects with the dead end one that all the people live on. But to Harbor, but man, it's just, they're flying. And especially what scares you is the motorcycles that really do go real fast down.
Is it
Down
30?
Harbor.
Is it 30 or 35? Do you know?
I don't think it's posted on the speed limit. It may be, I don't know, but that particular part of Harbor Drive, I don't think there's a speed limit posted on that. I know one person that would know. Eddie Ligon would know. I guarantee that.
Oh, yeah. Exterminator.
Yes, sir. He's a good guy, man. I love him to death, but he would know.
Yeah.
Because he
So-
and his wife are they're just a real good couple of sweet people. Jessica and Eddie both. And, he's real sincere about it. He really gets fired up about it. And I understand because, every time he gives me a call, and I want him to call me, but he'll give me a text or something like that, or I'll see him on Facebook, him, saying something about it. And but my point is that it is a concern, I think, of not only just of us in that area, but everybody in Hendersonville. I could be wrong. There might be an alderman that says, I don't have a problem,
So Sarah, does the staff have any concerns if Boma passed an ordinance like this? I know that there would be a physical note to change the signs, but
Yeah.
it would lower the speed limit in neighborhoods. I don't know how you can argue against that. I mean, people, if the speed limit is 30, they're gonna go 40. So if we lower it to 25, they go 35 maybe,
Yeah.
you know, but
So part of it would be the cost for the signs, but with that, I think that there needs to, if the intention is to go out and change all of them instead of it being like request based, I think that, there needs to be a consideration for an implementation timeline, as well as funding for a revision to roadway characteristics to accommodate a lower speed limit. With that also, and I think part of the reason it was based on low volume before is when you lower the speed limit, you can impact the capacity of the roadway for certain, like, I guess Harbor Drive would be a better example than like a closed off residential subdivision like Creekwood. The volume may not be as much of an issue because it's very limited volume. There's no connectivity. But when you have connectivity and you have a lot of people using that roadway and you drop that speed limit, you can only move so many cars per day, per hour, so that it can have an impact there. But it's not necessarily, I can't think of an area specifically where it would just ruin everything, but it's a consideration.
We need it on Civil Drive.
see, it's
It's
everywhere. It's everywhere, and so
We have a lot more kids.
do we need more information before taking the next step? I mean, the next step, I guess, would be to see it, if you gentlemen would agree with me to support an ordinance,
Yeah, I'll help sponsor it.
to sponsor it.
Yeah.
Do we need more information, Jesse or Sarah?
It probably wouldn't be a bad idea to talk to PD and just get their take.
Yeah, it might have to go to public safety, and as far as the board of mayor knowledge, to let them know what
Yeah,
we're
that would be
doing.
the appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, most traffic studies indicate that the speed limit really doesn't necessarily dictate how fast people drive. It's the roadway characteristics. So if you put a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit out on the freeway, folks aren't going to go 25. So it really becomes an enforcement issue at that point. And so the speed limit becomes a sign unless it's enforced, and speeds don't necessarily change based on a new posting of a speed limit. So I think it'd be appropriate to have police into the discussion and just talk about how we could effectively manage.
Yeah, but if we lowered them to 25 and then we had a problem area that with persistent speeders, then we would have more of a hammer when we pull them over for a larger ticket, right?
Yeah, I don't know if the ticket range is based on speed over. If we have a speed over now, they can cite them if they have if they're going 35 and a 30 or 35 and a 25, they could get a ticket either way. So it would just be, we'd have to go out and enforce the areas for it. The speed limit wouldn't necessarily change driving.
It might necessitate more calls,
Yes,
what you're
yes,
saying.
absolutely.
Right. And probably
People-
more neighborhood traffic calming
Yes, sir.
requests as well.
So is the next step, when's the next time we're meeting, Mark?
Well, I don't know yet. I know we've got one that we're canceling, what is it? I think it's the next one.
June.
Next
There's
Tuesday.
next two of them, I think, yeah.
So maybe an appropriate measure that we could look at is, can we change the road characteristics along with the new speed limit? So in neighborhoods where it's appropriate to do some restriping, which works as traffic calming, because like Sarah said, the lanes get narrower and people slow down. So maybe there's a combination of things that we could do that would be more effective without having so many more calls on PD, where the road characteristics would actually encourage slower driving.
So do we need to, our next meeting, have PD attend and have a discussion on this?
I think that would be a good next step.
I think it's the next step. I haven't even looked
It's not
because
on-
I was
it's
waiting to
not-
see
it's
what,
not
how
on.
the budget was working before I called that meeting. But we're definitely, our next one, since it's gonna be canceled on the 26th, we'll probably meet before the 26th. Obviously, I just need to look at the dates and confirm with you guys if you're available for those meetings, and you'll get an email from Public Works when we call and set it. So,
So maybe if I could request, Mr. Chairman, that at our next meeting,
yes,
whenever you
Sure.
designate,
all right.
that we put this back on discussion and we invite PD
Yeah, and for discussion, yeah.
for discussion, and that'll give us more information on what direction we need to take.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I really do. I mean, I don't know if it's gonna help but I hope it does. And I'm encouraging that, for us to do something like that. So thank you for bringing that up, Eddie.
Yeah.
Now, I guess under other business, does anyone have anything?
Did you find anything, Andy?
It's gonna take some digging because on this copy, there's a 2019 XX and then there on the back, there's a 2018-8
Have the same
and
problem.
two different sponsors.
Mhm.
And none of the 2018-8s applies. And I went back, the index on 2019 and 2018, I didn't see anything.
Oh, I did the same
I
thing.
remember the discussion, it was about neighborhoods off Saundersville Road.
Yes, it was.
That's why Ham brought it
One
up.
in particular on the left when you're going out.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I remember us talking about they had deer walking on the sidewalks.
Oh, yeah.
I remember all that. I just don't remember if this got withdrawn or if it got sent to the traffic committee, maybe even
It may
for
be.
recommendation. I
Yeah.
just don't remember.
I don't know. We'll need to look that up. I
Let's
may
go
just
take a
call
look. Take a
Ham and
look.
ask him. If
Ham?
he remembers, he'd know it.
He probably remember.
Well, okay, under other business, thank you for going to look that up,
Sure.
though. Any other business?
I have a question under other business.
Yes, sir.
Is there a traffic study been going on right at Bluegrass Country Club or
Yes.
something like that?
Mm-hmm. There was a request for a traffic signal there, so MTAS is actually assisting us with collecting data, and they're going to do a traffic signal warrant for us.
Coming out of the neighborhood
Well,
And
maybe
the-
out of the golf course.
and
The
then
golf
trying to turn
course.
left out of the golf course or
Yeah.
left out of the neighborhood.
Yeah. Doctor, who is it that raised the issue? He and his wife play golf there all the time. I can't
I know
remember.
who you're talking
Yeah, older guy.
Didn't like the coffee shop either.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, bad.
Yeah.
I don't remember that guy's name, but yeah.
I was just curious. I saw the strips on,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it can be dangerous right there. They've lit it up with the new landscape and it makes it look a lot better.
I do have one. There is a tree branch that is hanging down on Lakeside Park Drive and Walton Ferry Road or Curtis Crossroads, where it switches to Curtis from Walton Ferry
Mm-hmm.
back there. Who's in charge of maybe, because that is a dangerous thing, like messing up your car. Do we just tear that down ourselves as public works go by and it's not one of these things that's going to take all day to do. It's probably take about 10 minutes just to knock it down. And at the most 5 minutes, really.
Yeah, I'll send it to our crews if it's,
Okay.
if it's in the roadway.
It's
Impacting
definitely in the
traffic, yeah.
roadway. I was just wondering. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for that. I was trying to think of anything else. I will say this. I know it's been hard on Parks and Recreation. Y'all have done a great job with the rain that we've experienced this year. And I just want to let you know how much I appreciate everybody working hard, because I know the alderman had to work hard too, because we got tons of calls too. I know I was out in it, looking at stuff, and not only in my ward, but other wards as well. And so there's a difference between, and this is something that I experienced, and I have experienced it for quite many years. There's a difference between flooding and flash flooding, because and I know that you guys know that, but we just need to kind of tell the people, say, yes, this is flash flooding. This is probably not going to happen maybe once or twice, or when it's a real heavy rain real fast, as opposed to regular flooding when it's just getting backed up because there's more water getting here faster than it normally is, but it'll go away real quick, as opposed to flash flooding. And we had a lot of that obviously happening in the city of Hendersonville, the flash flooding more so. But I will, I'm trying to make my point here. I'm getting to the point that what I noticed that is a lot of our drainage actually was working. I don't know if you all saw that or noticed it. And I was real proud of that, because I was going like, wow, it actually, because I've been here when it didn't work, and so we've been constantly working on that, and it really is working. I mean, some people will still say, no, it's not, because look at this, but that's a different kind of water flow as opposed to regular. But I wanted to let you know that was my thoughts on the drainage issue. Flash flood, you just, that's just hard to manage. But the regular water flow, when dealing with flooding, our drainage has been working, and I appreciate that, and I've noticed it. So
let me piggyback on
Sure.
that.
Mhm.
Andy, I talked to you briefly when all this was going on. Probably it was a bad time, but talked about trying to improve the resiliency of our facilities from flooding. And I know most of our facilities are in the floodplain. Makes it difficult. But I am really interested in the staff looking at ways we can better protect Mary's Magical Place. Now, I'm on a board in Miami where the lake is, because of development, is building up, and they have put some kind of plexiglass to help a little bit with the rising water. So I wish that and it may be so expensive that we couldn't do it, but I wish we could look at, is there anything that we can do to improve the resiliency of Mary's Magical Place from flooding? Because that's not covered by insurance anymore, is it?
The structure is covered by insurance. The flooring is not covered by insurance for flooding.
Okay.
Which is expensive flooring.
Yeah.
So I will say one thing we have learned this time that in 2019 we weren't really made aware of is there's concrete in there, obviously, but there's also curbs that the flooring is attached to. So this time we're having to redo all the concrete curbs, but when they put them back, they're putting in rebar and footers. So the curbing is what is floated in the water, and that's caused the flooring to buckle and be wavy. So that's one thing. We had obviously a very nice designed berm that we were going to build there, but I think that horse has left the barn. Definitely, I'm open to anything that we can look at. We can build things up, and water is going to find places to go, I guess. I've thought of what if we put a concrete wall this high around it and
Right.
the water never got in there? Well, then you think, okay, but what if it does? How are we going to get it out? But that may be every 20 years. And, yeah, we would have to worry about that.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a legitimate option or not, but I'd be open to anything to protect that place, because I think the calls that we've had for the last 2 weeks of disappointed kids is not fun to answer.
Why'd the berm,
I'll
you
take
talk about
this
a
one.
berm around the whole property?
Yeah, it's where it was proposed is in the floodway, actually, so we had to go through a LOMAR process with FEMA. It did not work.
You gotta compensate for it.
I will say too, when that park was built, it was not in the floodplain. And it never flooded. I'm talking about the ball fields where Mary's is, where the hockey rinks were. That did not flood. When you go down Saundersville Road and back towards Indian Lake and you look to your left, there's a lot of wooded areas now. That used to be baseball fields. It was called Saratoga Park. That's where I played 14-year-old baseball. And there was a trade-off made of land there to get the fields out of the floodplain where they are now. And the city acquired the rest of that property because it didn't flood. So that's why they built skate park. That's why even in 2010, that area over there wasn't necessarily underwater like it gets underwater now. It's a whole different game over there right now for multiple reasons. We could all list them all. But
So anything we do in there, does FEMA have to approve it?
We can look at that. I can't remember the boundary for the park, whether that specifically is in the floodway. If it's in the floodway, we'll have to go through FEMA. But if it's floodplain, there may be some other things that we could do.
Okay. I just think it would be because it looks like we're in for this war.
How high does the water get? Above
this last time, it really only got in there less than a foot inside the playground. Now, up around the restrooms, it was 2 feet high. Once it got to the playground, it was about a foot of water. And the playground is built it has drainage underneath it, and it's crowned, and it doesn't necessarily cover it all. It's floating those concrete ribbons. Hopefully that'll help. That should help a lot.
Yeah.
And we got lucky this time. We didn't have to replace the whole flooring. Like, we hope to have it open this week.
Thank you.
Sure. Well, I'm glad because every time it gets rough, I feel for you. I really do, because I know that's a pain.
It's been a little bit exhausting this
I
past
know it
year.
has. I know it.
Tornado. We closed the insurance claim on the tornado the day before it flooded.
Gosh. So, but anyway, I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention about the drainage, what my perception of it was. Now, you could talk to somebody else and they might disagree with me vehemently, that they were wrong, but my years of looking at things, I think you're going to see that, or I saw it. Felt it.
Can you carve out a retention pond in that open area?
So with the pickleball that we're planning to place over there, we're already looking at cutting from a couple areas to balance the asphalt that's going to fill in part of the floodway.
Displacement.
So it's maybe, but it's getting kind of tight on available space to cut and kind of regrade without creating safety hazards.
Okay.
Things like that.
And then I had one final thing that I was going to ask about. County Commissioner Bob Brown had called me, and I know you're probably familiar about this. In fact, I think he was going to speak at the last city council meeting we had, but for some reason he didn't. I don't know what the problem was. But the fact is, where we have a huge retention pond down there off of Tooth Alley or somewhere like in there.
Yes.
And I'm sure you've looked at that. Has there been any progress or any discussion in terms of what can be done for those families down there that when the water comes through there?
Sure. So I think there was kind of two parts to that. So there's a regional detention pond at the end of
Right.
Tooth Valley, which is city owned and maintained.
Yes.
But then the downstream is county. So we do evaluate the detention pond either monthly or quarterly. We're out there. I've set up previously I had set up reminders for staff, and they go out, and a couple years ago they pulled out more than a truckload of sediment that had built up in there. So they do work out there and keep an eye on it. downstream, there are also some issues there were some blocked culverts, things like that. Additionally, this last storm event specifically that has triggered this, that exceeded the design storm for roadway infrastructure.
Right.
It's designed for a 25-year event, and that was much more than a 25-year event
Yeah.
that we had. So we have sent the information to the county for their stormwater coordinator
Okay.
for what we observed for the county property. And then we also have identified some other maintenance things that we can do for the pond, but it has to dry out.
Right.
And so it's probably going to be over the summer where we'll be able to get in there and perform some additional maintenance, but we have been keeping an eye on it.
Okay, good. Thank you very much for that. Because I know that's a concern. It used to be Mama's County Commission District too, and it was, I mean, that's how far this thing goes back, many moons ago. Hadn't been that long from, but I just know that it's always been back. I know they had problems, I knew they had problems even then, back when 386 was built. You know, that's been the early 80s. So anyway, well, thank you very much for that, and I'll relay that to Bob on that and let him know what we've done on that. All right, thank you. I'm sorry. Anybody else have any other agenda items? And if there's not, I'll
Move to adjourn.
All right, we're
Second.
adjourned at 5:52.